Here we go again at Thruxton tonight for Behind the Bike Shed's Cat 3 and 4 crit race. This is a Syco-list. Let's get on with it. So back at Thruxton for Behind the Bike Shed's Cat 3 and 4 race this evening. It's a 6:30 start, 45 minutes of racing around Thruxton Racecourse. Not been here for over a year now. Thought I'd get back into it with this Cat 3-4 race. Let's see how we get on. Let's go.
So we joined this one on the race start line. The E123 race is already set off and we're just getting ourselves ready for this Cat 3-4 race. Returning to Thruxton, not been here since early last season. It's a course that I enjoy, being on a racetrack. It's quite wide and open, but the wind does play a factor. The field today in this Cat 3-4 was 100 riders. I was just aiming to try and stay within the top 25 riders throughout the race and just monitor and just watch what was going on. But with a mass start like that, with 100 riders, I've just settled into the field and just found where I was comfortable to start with. Thought I'd get the first lap out of the way, just see how things were. So this evening I've changed the GoPro on the front of the bike. I've gone to my GoPro Hero 8 and I've made a bit of a schoolboy error in the fact that I've left it running at 4K. So unfortunately I don't get the full race, which is really annoying as what happens towards the end. I'll enlighten you later, but as you can see, I've sat in the pack. I've just settled into this race. Thruxton lap is about 2.3 miles in length, and on a good day it's about 5 minutes to do a lap. The race that I did this evening, we were averaging around about 28 mile an hour, so it was a good race with a bit of a crosswind and some tailwind in places. It was quite a varied field, being a Cat 3-4 and the first one at Thruxton for this season, so it was quite clear that people weren't holding their lines very well, and some of the racing lines and just how people move within the pack wasn't great at times, and there was a few shouts of obviously hold your line and having to just be mindful of where you were positioning yourself. But having raced here a few times, I sort of knew where I needed to be and knew how the wind was going to play a factor at times, so I was just keeping an eye on the wheels in front of me and trying to move around in the pack but not get caught out too well in the middle really. So just holding out to the right hand side at times, just so I had somewhere to move, somewhere to go. In this race, I was racing with 3 of my teammates from League RT. 4 of us were quite strong and feeling confident for this one. You can see us all around each other at times. Young Will sat more towards the front at the moment. But as this lap sort of continues, I do start to sort of move further forward and move up in the pack to be where I wanted to be. This back section of the course here was where we got the tailwind, and with this descent it made it quite rapid down through here. The only issue at the bottom is there is a little kicker up into the chicane to take you back into the finish line, which is always where the pace sort of eases off and people might make the odd attack, so it's just one to be mindful of. But it was a glorious evening to be back out racing, and this one after Sunday I was really looking forward to. So we're just coming in towards that slight kicker up towards the chicane now. It doesn't get quite tight and narrow, and obviously we're riding directly into the sunlight as well, so it does play a part. It does obviously catches a glare on the camera here, but it does also catch you out with your sunglasses on at times, just the reflections of people around you. But again, you can see the pace is just easing here, so I'm sort of just trying to move out and move to the right place so I'm not going to get caught out and I've got somewhere to go, which is something that I always try and do within my races, is just to have somewhere to go. Liking to be either on the left or right edge, but predominantly on the right hand side of this circuit. It's going to be better today for the wind, but I've moved out there. We start this climb up here. The chicane is tight and you do need to hold your line through it, but we navigated it the first time round. And I think as it got further into the race, people were getting it better. They sort of knew how to take the chicane and where to be when we moved through it. But again, at this stage of the race, with 100 riders starting, most people have been able to hold the pace and stay with the pack. So it was a lot of people to get through a tight space, and already you can see that there's brakes being pulled, people not holding lines and just cutting across, and already we're bunching to come through this chicane. Then it's back out onto that start finish line to start the second lap. So we've just crossed over the start line there for the second lap. The race itself is 45 minutes in length, or just over, depending on where the other races are on course. Just sped the footage up a little bit just to sort of show you how I move through the pack and move up. There, my teammate wearing the 190 miles. He was in Cat 2 last year, is back in Cat 3 this year, and it was great to be riding with him again. Always one to watch with Miles, as I like to ride with him. We know each other, we train together, so sort of being on his wheel and being guided with him is always good. He's got a lot of experience in crit racing and road racing, so it's just sort of watching the wheels. There was quite a few riders around me that I knew. 174 there that's just going back past me, Rich Sandhouse from PB Performance, another really strong rider that was Cat 2 last year as well. So just having my teammates around me and sort of working together and sort of knowing that we're all there was really good. It really worked well this evening. Just passing their mark on the inside, and then Mars is just a little bit further in front. But again, you can see that I'm trying to stick to the right hand side of the course to stay out of the wind, which is blowing left to right here. And just taking this opportunity with the shelter just to move further forward. Again, just trying to get nearer to where I wanted to be, which was in that top 25. So straight away there you can see I'm up in the top 20 riders of this race now, which is where I really wanted to be from the beginning, and I try and sort of maintain that throughout the race. I don't want to be on the front doing the work. I don't want to be making attempts to try and attack and get away. If a move goes, I'll follow it, but I'm not going to be making those moves. And my tactics and how I was riding it was really well. Miles goes down on a flyer here. He's a strong rider, and I know that he'll pull people with him, but I just wait for the pack to make the move and follow it, which in a minute you'll see they do start to move and the pace picks up on this descent. So nothing was really getting away. People were making the efforts to try and get away, but they were soon brought back by a hungry peloton behind that were chasing everything back. Again, like on every lap in this race, as we come down into this bottom of this descent, everything sort of slows off. The odd attack does go, but that's just more people trying to get to that chicane out the front so they're not caught up in anything behind. And it's this descent that ultimately ends my race for me a little bit later on. The rider there, 154, was the overall winner at the end. He went on to take this. And Rich Sandhill, that I mentioned earlier on, goes on to take third place in the race as well. And they formed a breakaway towards the end, which wasn't brought back following the events that unroll a bit later. But as you can see, being near the front of the group here makes a big difference when you come through that chicane. You're not losing power, you're not losing time coming through there. And lap 2's over already, and we're moving on through. I wasn't worried about any gaps forming or happening in front, because I knew people would chase it back, and I didn't want to be the one doing that chasing back tonight. I wanted to work within the wheels and sort of just drift across with people. Young Will there, our young rider from League RT, he'd been doing a lot around the front of this race and was well positioned throughout. That's one thing that he did well in this race, was he was there at times. He did come by me towards the end at one point and said he wanted to try and bridge across to the breakaway, but I told him to wait a lap just because it wasn't time to go. I felt like the peloton were going to make that move as a unit, but the later events obviously stopped that, and the breakaway stayed away for the finish anyway. But again, you can see now I'm sort of probably sat in the top 10 riders at this point. So just before my GoPro dies, the race ended with me coming down in a crash at the bottom of that descent. Riders in front of me, about 3 or 4 riders in front of me, had a collision and came down, and that ended up bringing my race to an end. Well, it's now the day after Thruxton Cat 3-4 race last night, which ended for me in the crash. Unable to bring you the footage of the actual accident itself, as my GoPro had run out of battery at that point. I forgot to change it from recording in 4K down to 1080p, so it would have lasted longer. That's my mistake. The crash itself happened as we got to the bottom of the climb up into the chicane. In the pack there was obviously some movement and some riders came down, and it just ricocheted down through the rest of the field. I'd moved further to the back of the pack just to get together and start thinking about moving forward and starting trying to get off the front a little bit, as we were about 45 minutes into the race at that point. I was feeling good, had the legs, and was just getting myself prepared to start making a move to try and attack a little bit more on the front. As I moved back down the pack, obviously there was a coming together mid-pack, and I was caught up behind it. I actually managed to stop before the accident, but riders from behind me crashed into the back of me, which has obviously left the bike in the state that it's in. I've had a quick inspection of the bike. It looks like the rear frame is taking some of the brunt, the rear brake rotors buckled, and the rear chainstay is definitely damaged. Obviously the front end is all out of kink as well, handlebars, and the front fork's all out of angle. But it's a case now of checking it over. It'll have to go off to the shop at some point, but looking at it, I'm not confident that it's not going to be a write-off. The frame does look damaged, and I wouldn't be confident to ride it again. So I'll be making a phone call a bit later on to my bike insurance and starting the process with them to get a look at it. But yeah, not ideal as my first sort of crit race back this season. Having had a poor show on Sunday, I was feeling really confident about today, but it's not meant to be, but we'll go again. So if you are liking the videos, then please do click that like button, click that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one.